Good evening, Nigerians, and welcome to another edition of Electricity Town Hall, a program being sponsored by the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission (NERC), aimed at keeping consumers of electricity abreast of happenings in the nation's power sector. This program comes your way every Monday on the network service of Radio Nigeria at 7 o'clock in the evening. NERC is a regulator for the nation's power sector, interfacing with electricity generation companies known as GENCOs, the Transmission Company of Nigeria (TCN), and the distribution companies (DISCOs). I am David Umur Yanka. The Nigerian electricity supply industry (NERC) is a framework for electricity generation, transmission, and distribution in Nigeria. It's a critical sector that plays a vital role in Nigeria's economic development, fueling industries and improving the standard of living. However, the NERC faces ongoing challenges such as providing reliable and affordable power to a growing population. One area that has remained critical has been the distribution sector, where consumers are given electricity and in turn required to pay for services rendered. Owing to issues surrounding electricity supply, consumption, bills, electricity theft, consumer protection, compliance and enforcement, the federal government has introduced several initiatives geared towards protecting the consumer, while also providing the investor the enabling environment to get returns on their investment. Tonight we'll be talking about compliance and enforcement in the Nigerian electricity supply industry (NERC). Or what are the reasons for non-compliance with the Commission's decision, and how does it affect the nation's power sector? These and more will be interrogated tonight on Electricity Town Hall as we look at compliance and enforcement in the Nigerian electricity supply industry (NERC). We have in the studio a regulatory officer, Legal Licensing and Compliance Division of NERC, Folari Ebiti. Welcome to the program.
It's my pleasure to be here.
We also have a manager, Research and Data Analytics Division of NERC, Mutari Aliyu. Welcome to the program tonight.
Thank you for having me here, Mr. David.
We'll go straight into it. Thank you so much. Folari, I'll begin with you. Why can't electricity companies consistently follow the rules set by NERC?
Oh, good question. Thank you for asking that. So the most fundamental impediment really is the severe lack of cash flowing through the sector. I mean, it's a well-documented cycle of debt where low customer payments and high losses mean operators cannot really meet all their obligations, right? So our job at the Commission, of course, is to enforce the rules and the law, and then ensure that compliance is made. But we must, of course, operate within the reality we have. You can't compel a company to make $1 billion naira investment in meter and transformer, for instance, when it lacks the funds to fully maintain its existing assets, right? It's a central challenge we are working on with all stakeholders, to improve and to resolve.
You mentioned loss, which is a very critical part of any business as it is. What are some of these losses within the value chain?
Yeah, so really the challenge is just like a bleeding body, really. I mean, as a utility, you've invested so much, and then you still have to battle with electricity theft, meter bypassing, and what have you. I mean, at the end of the day, there are revenue losses here and there, and you have inability to even maintain the sanctity of your contract, to pay the GENCOs, the transmission providers. Of course, it just spiral because GENCOs, for instance, won't be able to pay their gas supplier. So it's like a bleeding body, really. So these are issues in NERC.
Over now to you, Mutari. Many Nigerians just believe that the DISCOs simply don't care. From the regulator's seat, do you see a problem of defiance or a genuine inability to comply?
Thank you, Mr. David. The operators of the industry are struggling with the financial challenges to meet up their obligations. So in that aspect, they find it difficult to comply with some of the regulations. However, the Commission takes non-compliance very seriously and it's enforcing action on it. And at the same time, the Commission tries to make regulations to improve the commercial and operational performance of the sector. So we look at it as DISCOs not being willingly not to comply with the regulations, with the compliances of issues by the Commission, but rather some of them are attributed to the financial challenges.
Okay, so from the Commission's point of view, these challenges of non-compliance are kind of genuine and not just an act of defiance. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, they struggle. There are oversight reasons. Some staff of discourse didn't do their work diligently, but basically from the data available, it's some of the non-compliance attributed to the financial challenges the discourse face. Because there are penalties, there are consequences for not complying with such regulations.
Okay. Now, when you also ask around, everybody wants a meter. Why is it so difficult for the Commission's regulations and initiatives to finally solve the mass metering gap?
Well, metering, it's part of the terms and conditions of distribution licenses to meter all their customers. But due to the financial challenges that we set, they are unable to meet up their obligations in metering all those customers. However, the Commission have set up metering initiatives, one to encourage private sector participation and also to close the metering gaps. We have metering initiatives like the mass metering programs, the meter acquisition forms, and the recent presidential metering initiatives that the federal government have introduced. But at the same time, you find out every day we are having new customers on the network. And as well, there are customers who have meters before, whose meters are obsolete, which will require replacement. So it makes it difficult to have a time frame to close this metering gap. Because as we are deploying, as the sector is having more meters, some of the meters are also going off the network. And with the coming of new customers as well on board. And at the same time, the Commission also make this regulation to ensure that all new customers are to be connected with meters. But we are having one or two challenges in meeting up with this directive because of the financial issues.
I'll come to you, Folari. The Commission writes the grid code, but we still have frequent grid collapses. Is the problem with the rules or the transmission network itself simply not fit for purpose?
All right. Thank you very much for this question. So basically, it's part of the systemic and operational orders in NERC basically. So it's not so much about the rule book because the grid code, right, is quite robust and it aligns with international best practice. And of course, it basically is to designed to ensure stability of the grid. And the rules are only as effective as the physical infrastructure they govern, right? So the transmission company of Nigeria, right, has been tasked to manage a decade-old legacy assets, right, that are often stretched beyond their technical limits. So you have issues here and there where the grid we collapse. So the impediment isn't the rule book itself, but the physical capability of the network to adhere to it, right? So it's a challenge of capital investment, not a failure of regulation.
Okay, while talking, you made mention of overstretched infrastructure to be replaced or not. On whose bill would that be? Do they get to have any support financially, or they have to raise source for these funds internally?
Oh yeah, whatever ways you can raise money, but of course there are issues with raising money. I mean, the financial institution, right? Not many of them will want to, give you long-time loan and what have you. Or I mean, the long-time loan, especially in a so-called struggling industry, basically. But again, I mean, there's need for humongous investment in the industry, which has basically be a part of the challenge, really. Because some of these lines are obsolete and need proper upgrade and what have you. So it's an industry that requires massive investment from private investors, the government, and what have you.
Okay, so from the financial point of view, as an impediment to compliance, what would you advise discos or electricity suppliers to do?
So for discos, right, they need to be efficient in their collections, really. Of course, we can go on to say, okay, they are low cost paying customers, bypass and what have you. And we can speak to this because there are laws really that guide them on how they can enforce against electricity bypass, energy theft and what have you. I mean, discos need to be effective in implementing all these laws, right? And also sanctity of contract. Discos need to be efficient. They need to be efficient in how they manage, their process and all. So yeah, really, it's an all-around thing. Discos have responsibility. Customers need to pay their bills, encourage private investment. And how do we do this? Is by doing all our job. If you are the disco, I mean, make sure there's little or no mismanagement in how you carry on your operation as well, because people would like to invest and expect reasonable return. So they want to look at your book and see that, okay, you are doing what is expected of you. You are compliant largely, right? Because some of these our rule book are there to help you carry your business the best way possible. Comply with international best practices and and all that. And if you need to carry on some execution against energy theft, you need to explore the options that you have available to you. So,
of course, there is a rule book or a guide that you should follow as it is. You're listening to the Electricity Town Hall on the network service of Radio Nigeria, a program being sponsored by the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC. We've got a short break, and when we return, we'll be speaking more on some of the compliance challenges from the systemic and operational point of view, and also the regulator's role and the path forward. Stay with us.
This is Electricity Town Hall on the network service of Radio Nigeria. We will be back shortly.
For Nigeria electricity supply industry to obey wetin dem say make you do wey oyibo dey call compliance no be by choice o, na must. If you no obey, Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission go take action. This na why compliance dey important. Every market person wey dey inside must follow this same rule so that trust go dey for Nigeria electricity market. Operators gats maintain safe infrastructure and dey deliver light wey no dey dance anyhow to protect life and property. Compliance dey important for consumer protection. Dem no fit cut your light if dem never tell you first. To make national grid stable, operators gat follow technical and operational standards. If operators no comply, dem go face legal and financial wahala like fine, suspension, or even say make dem collect their license back from them. So therefore, compliance dey to help electricity markets stable, straight and secure. This one go favor customers and operators dem. For more information, make you visit www.nerc.gov.ng. NERC, make light for the shine.
We are back with Electricity Town Hall on the network service of Radio Nigeria.
Welcome back. It's still Electricity Town Hall on the network service of Radio Nigeria, and we're discussing compliance and enforcement in the Nigerian electricity supply industry, NERC. We have been speaking with the regulatory officer, legal licensing and compliance division of NERC, Folarin Ebiti, and a manager, research and data analytics division of NERC, Mutari Aliyu. Thanks for joining me on the program tonight.
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Okay, we'll just take off from where we left off. Mutari, I'll begin with you. Let's talk about data. Let's begin with data now. Your internal documents admit that you often receive poor quality data from operators. How can the public trust that NERC's decisions are fair if you're working with flawed information?
Okay, thank you for asking these questions. Data integrity is a major focus that the Commission is really paying high attention to. Yes, and it is a challenge we take very seriously. While historical data has been a problem, we are actively deploying regulatory tools and technology to improve monitoring and verification to ensure that our decisions are strictly guided by the data-driven document that the Commission will the Commission receive. So improving data quality is a continuous process, and the Commission has placed a top priority in ensuring our decisions are always evidence-based.
Okay, so making sure that you even verify these data even when they come to you. What are the mechanisms for you to verify these data so that you don't make misinformed decisions?
Okay, the Commission have designed templates for receiving data from the licensees, and we have put in some metrics. If you upload such data and we observe any errors, those the data application form automatically reject those submissions, and we follow up with the licensees to highlighting where the issues or where the lapses are, and we make sure that we carry them along and we corrected the data. Then they upload it before we make use of it.
Okay, so from the legal licensing and compliance point of view, and also the Commission's point of view, for those who tend to submit some of the data that make up the poor quality data you receive, of course, it's not 100% poor quality, fair enough. So what has been some of the penalties meted out to them?
Okay, one of the key performance indicators that the Commission have set to monitor, discuss compliance with the regulations. Any data that you, the regulators, sorry, distribution licenses submitted to the Commission, we've verified those information. These are some of the issues where we discover some lapses. We reject those documents, and we ensure that right things are done. We've had instances of cases of compliance with cappings of
Great.
yes. So where we have instances where we sanction discourse, and they write to us claiming that okay, based on this information were omitted, that's why we arrive maybe this so amount of money for the penalty, or certain amount of customers feeders, because the billing are done based on feeders, right? So they can reach out. They said, okay, this information, this data were wrong. That's why you arrive at those decisions.
Okay, and one thing with a customer, most time customers like to see their providers being put down, or that's when they'll believe that yes, something has been done. That's when they're satisfied. So some of the critics might just say that NERC might not be fully or being strict with some of these compliances. But before we get to that point, Folari has something to add to this.
Oh yes, particularly on flawed data, like you rightly said, or data that does not comply with the procedure, how you should come in and all that. It becomes a compliance issue, right? So again, the Commission will not accept data hook, line, and sinker. There are instances where they will need to verify, inspect, check the data, and there's what we call open book review, where you check that's okay, whatever they are representing is actually what is in their book. The Commission also undertake that, and of course there are corrective and punitive measure if there's need for it as well. So yes, the data are checked, and they have to come in a structured way, to help the Commission, guide the Commission decision.
Okay. And so thank you for that additional clarification. And also, as I was saying earlier, critics most times will believe that regulators and operators shake hands more often than the Commission and customers. So they'll just believe that the Commission gives a soft landing to operators. You get. So is it that these penalties are not tough enough? Is the Commission being too soft on non-compliant companies? How would you?
Oh, thank you for that question, and that's a brilliant question. So really, our enforcement philosophy is corrective and not purely punitive. Now, the goal is to always steer a utility back towards compliance and improve service, right? Not to push them back into bankruptcy. Like we said earlier, there are financial struggle going on in the sector. Okay, so which would cause a greater crisis to consumer? I mean, if this utility had to go through bankruptcy and through punitive measure and what have you. So we use a graduated approach, really. So start from warning, right, then directive, then fine. So graduative approach. So you let them know, okay, this is what you are doing wrong. You warn them. Directive, look, you need to provide this transformer to this society, instead of asking them to pay an humongous amount of money as fine, and usually the last result will be fine, right? So our actions are firm, right, but they are always pragmatic and aim at protecting the consumer in the long run.
Okay, speaking from a listener point of view, like you rightly said, there are like two layers before it gets to the financial penalty. While the consumer will say, oh, okay, but I'm already being fined on my first offense or my first violation. how do you reconcile or try to convince them that no, I have to warn again before I find an operator? But for you, your own violation is a lot more criminal, quote unquote. Therefore, there's a fine directly when a customer violates any of the rule within the value chain, electricity value chain. How do you balance, or how do you convince a listener that you're being fair to an operator who violates, and you're not giving me some buffer to violate once or twice before you fine me?
So, like I said, we're always very pragmatic about the decisions we make. Mm-hmm. So, really, and that's how it is, really. If you look at our order and metering bypass and what have you, right? So, once you have been found guilty, right, there's overwhelming evidence of you bypassing or energy theft in some sort of a way, their approach to it, they disconnect you, right? And their approach, administrative fines and penalty that you need to pay before you can come on, right? And that, of course, does not yank off, the criminal liability. I mean, the disco might even want to go ahead to, take criminal action against you, because, again, I mean, the law is the law. It's an offense, right? So, but for the disco part, we don't take any a violation from any utility or operator lightly, right? What I was trying to say is that, okay, we don't just jump on them that will make them, not be able to provide the service that we all need. You understand what I mean? So if we have customers complaining about faulty transformers or what have you, I mean, it's just pay. It helps to say, Disco, look, provide this transformer, right? Is your obligation. We know the reality in the provide this transformer instead of paying this heavy fine. It is, of course, if there is an overwhelming non-compliance, then you know what to do.
So from the point of lodging complaints, when you talk about, you made mention of transformer now, from when you alert them and you ask them to, hey, fix this as against paying a fine in case it violates, how long does it take? How long do you give them?
Okay, so really, it depends, really. But again, we have to come in terms with the internal remedial mechanism in the sector, right? So first of all, if a complainant has a grouse or needs a redress, you first lodge to the DISCO customer complaint unit. Okay. They get the first right to address that. Then from that, you move to the forum office, right? To say, okay, look, these people have not addressed. First of all, you have the time to deal with the customer complaint is just 15 days. Then you go to the forum office. Of course, we hope that, okay, the issue is resolved there. And if it still is not resolved, then you come to the commission. So there are internal remedial process to these things. So I'm just giving you a general overview on how, all this issue can be resolved. That, okay, we don't just pout. We try to take it, while being pragmatic, we try to ensure that, okay, what needs to be done is done just at the right time.
Because I'm asking that because I want to start counting the days it will take my disco to replace the transformer I've been looking for before we go. Mutari, you were going to add something to that.
Okay, as a regulator, we try to be balanced. In as much that you want the discos to succeed, to be financially viable, to be able to meet up their obligations, the customers as well are protected. The Commission have developed customer service standards. When we mention transformer, it's not only transformer. You have issue of maybe a fuse from customer's meter. There are standards that requires discos to resolve those complaints within specified periods. Like meters, if it is a fuse, it's a case of customer is expected to complain to be resolved within 12 hours. We have 48 hours. We mentioned transformer because transformer involve cash, right?
Yes,
so it will require a bit longer time. But aside that, most of the timelines, it's 12 hours, 24 hours.
Okay.
With the exception of billing, which probably will be like within a month.
All right, thank you very much. So as we wrap up, just in 30 seconds each, it is become very clear that regulation alone isn't the answer. From NERC's perspective, what single change would most effectively enable compliance across the sector?
Okay,
15 seconds.
So the most powerful enabler for compliance would be to ensure sanctity of contract, right, and payment. When all electricity users, including public institutions and what have you, pay their bills promptly, then you can ensure a strong system-wide, consequence for energy theft.
Prompt payment of bills and sanctity of contract.
Yes, so a financially healthy sector is a compliance sector, basically. So that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'll just take that for it. Sanctity of contracts and also prompt payment of bills, because finance, the sector is heavily dependent on finance. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the show this evening. This is where we end today's edition of Electricity Town Hall on the network service of Radio Nigeria. And I've been speaking with a regulatory officer, Legal Licensing and Compliance Division of NERC, Folarin ABT, and the manager, Research and Data Analytics Division of NERC, Mutari Adiu. Thank you both for your insightful contribution and coming on the program this evening.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Appreciation to the production team, studio manager, Phineas Udueyo, facilitator Conrad Labe, producer Sunday Igoche. Special thanks to our executive producer Msushima Ki. I'm David Umoru. See you next Monday for another interesting edition of Electricity Town Hall. Goodbye.